And so Tamela is a co-founder and president of Preservation of African American Cemeteries Incorporated, PAAC. She has served as the national president of the Afro-American Historical and Geological Society and was also a charter member of the Arkansas chapter of OGS. Currently, Tenpenny-Lewis serves as a board member of the Friends of the Arkansas State Archives. And so we've asked her to come here and not only talk about fraternal orders tonight, but also to help us hold a workshop tomorrow about getting a cemetery association started for Baptist Hill. And so we're really looking forward to it, and we're very grateful that she's taking the time to come here and speak with us. And so, Tamela, I'll turn the time over to you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I know y'all are sleepy because I am.
There you go.
So what we're going to do is ready. I'll have to just punch. Okay. And I'm kind of loud anyway, naturally. So what we're going to do, I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. And since we're talking about history and the past, we're going to reflect on a nursery rhyme that we all grew up with. So I need somebody, I cannot sing, so I need somebody to lead me off with Little Sally Walker. Sally Walker, sitting in a saucer, rising and weeping over all she had done. Oh, rise, Sally, rise. Oh, wipe your weepy eyes and put your hand on your hip and let your backbone slip. Oh, shake it to the east with the wind, shake it to the west. Shake it to the one that you love the best. Mama said so, Papa said so. That's the way you do it when you wanna catch a bug. But y'all were all supposed to be shaking and not
Y'all
just
did wait.
looking.
You did wait.
All right.
Teach us a lesson.
Now you notice the different, you guys notice the different variations, right? So there were three people kind of into it, but everybody had a different variation of it. But we all knew it, right? And that's the way things are. You know, traditions, practices, all of those things. But hello to all of you. And I'm happy to be here. I'm here from Little Rock, Arkansas. And no, I am not a Razorback fan, in case you're wondering. I went to Arkansas State University. We were the Indians then. And of course, you know, to be politically correct, we are the Red Wolves. So my Indian name is Red Wolf. So my presentation is about fraternal orders in the South. And before I begin, I would like to extend my appreciation to all those involved in bringing me here. Dr. Wilson, the university, Dr. Rubb, and the center. So all of those, Mr. Lang for taking me on tour yesterday in Montgomery. You guys make a note of this. May, we're going to have a cemetery preservation conference in Montgomery. And so put that on your calendar and we'll give you more information. But let the game begin. Cemetery preservation. Okay, I didn't get instructions. Okay, just use that one. Okay. All right, finding African American fraternal orders in Southern cemeteries. And if you can't hear me, you think I need the mic, just let me know. Okay, and I'm gonna stand over here so that I won't have green lines on my face and all the stuff that we were looking at on Rob.
Right.
I mean, and I said, Mr. Rob, I meant to say Bob. You know that. Okay, but we're going to talk about African American fraternal orders. Now, what you have before you is a headstone, and this individual, Mr. Jordan, obviously belonged to several fraternal orders. When we talk about our cemetery and those that we have lost and have loved and buried, we're talking about our communities because the history of our communities are found in those cemeteries. We can discover that information through genealogy, through cemetery preservation, and through our benevolent societies. The logos that you're seeing is the Arkansas chapter of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, and then PAAC, Preservation of African American Cemeteries, of which I am co-founder. Now, we all remember that there was a time when the entire community was involved in the burial or the taking care of the deceased. I mean, we would, when a person died, everyone in that community went to work. The women would come into the home, they would take care of the children, they would clean the house, they would clean the body, they would dress the body, they would prepare the food, and then they would, whatever levels of superstition were practiced or tradition, some say superstition, some say tradition, you know, they would cover the mirror to protect the spirit. They would stop the clock. There were many things that went into taking care of a loved one, you know, getting them dressed, putting them on the cooling board. You know, the whole purpose of a wake, you know, you sit with the body, you know, a minimum of 24 hours, to, you know, the family would, you know, just meet with people in the community. But a lot of times that person was placed on that cooling board because they weren't always dead, right? So there's where that practice came in. It wasn't because it just took forever to bury them, but a lot of times the person was not deceased. And if you noticed in the opening picture, there was a caravan, so to speak, of people walking to the cemetery with a horse and buggy and the casket on the y'all didn't see all that, did you? But anyway, that was on the buggy. And a lot of times, of course, animals have intuition. And a lot of times those horses would know whether or not that person was deceased or not, you know, because, you know, they knew that the person was still living. But there was a time when we did take care of everything. The men would dig the grave, build a coffin, you know, but we've gotten to a time now where funerals and burials have become commercialized. So we don't go to the cemetery like we used to. We don't preserve the graves like we used to. We don't take our children and teach them. Those old caretakers, you know, could walk into that cemetery and tell you what family was there. You know, this section is the Drake family. This section is the Holmes family. You know, Miss Holmes died of a broken heart, but you know, 3 of her children died when we had the tuberculosis epidemic. That's the stuff you don't see in records. You don't find on programs. You have to have that individual that experienced it, that worked in that cemetery, to give you that information. And not only did you know, we take care of our own, but you know, when we had the migrations from the South to Detroit and Chicago and places like that, you know, when those people died, what did they want to do? They wanted to be brought back home because they wanted to be buried in the soil of which they were raised. And we've lost that honor. You know, it's now like, you know, great-great-grandma is in Chicago today, but she's like, oh, well, ain't nobody down there no more. Ain't no sense in me going back home. They won't know who I am anyway. That type of thing. So that's why it's so important for us to preserve our cemeteries, to preserve the history of our cemeteries, and to document the people that are buried in them. Now I gave my little preaching on cemeteries and what we need to do. We'll talk about the benevolent societies. How many of you are actually not familiar with benevolent societies? So everybody is, a few not. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk very briefly because I got 2 hours, right?
2 hours.
2 hours. I'll be brief.
You didn't know that. We just did it.
Just looked at me like, what? 2 hours. Okay, and I do need somebody to keep me on track, okay? And let me know when I'm going to have it. Okay, but we're going to talk briefly about some that you may be familiar with, some that you may not have heard of. But the Mosaic Templars of America, the Supreme Royal Circle of Friends, their founders were from Arkansas. The Knights and Daughters of Tabor, that founder was out of Missouri. The Independent Order of St. Luke, Virginia. United Brothers of Friendship and Sisters of the Mysterious Ten. I like that. And you know what? My maiden name is Tenpenny. Maybe I can use that. Y'all refer to me as the sister of the mysterious 10. Okay. But anyway, John Bush and Chester Keats are founders of the Mosaic Templars of America. Now, in the cemetery, you'll have a brief moment. Baptist Hill. Baptist Hill Cemetery, the thing that I found odd was that there's a lot of Mosaic Templar headstones, but none from other fraternal orders. And in most cemeteries, you will find a patch of some in one spot, some maybe even side by side. But let me give you a brief story on John Bush and Chester Keats. John Bush and Keats were both prominent men in Arkansas. And the two of them were standing on a street corner one day with a white friend of theirs. And the three of the men were conversing. So a black lady walks up and she says, you know, gentlemen, my husband has passed and I need a donation to help with burying him. So all three of the men gave her a donation. And we're talking about, this is the late 1800s. Both of them gentlemen, all three of the gentlemen give her a donation. Well, as she walks away, the white gentleman turns and says, you know, I don't know what it is about your people. You work and squander your money, and then when somebody dies, you beg. Well, I don't think that's set too well with Mr. Bush and Mr. Keats. You know, particularly, you know, identifying this gentleman as a friend of theirs, but it put them into action. Because what they did, they developed and started the Mosaic Templars of America. Now, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, these were fraternal orders that were developed to provide burial insurance for their members. And this is a picture of the Mosaic Templars on 9th Street in Little Rock at the time that it was built in the early 1900s. And this is a picture of it today. There's an organization, Friends of the Mosaic Templars, that worked over 20 years to raise funds to restore the building. And unfortunately, it was destroyed in a fire. And Dr. Wilson has had the opportunity to be there. And but the museum did not, you know, in their, there was a, what do they call those things you bury? Those little pockets, those little space looking little things that, where you build a time capsule. That's it. They did find a time capsule with some information in it, but as far as records and minutes and all of that from the organization, there were not a lot. And I could give you the history of the Mosaic Templars all day, but we're going to move on. And just a brief history, that they were established in 1883 as a fraternal insurance organization. By 1900, they were an insurance company, a loan association, a newspaper publishing company. Tell me people can't do things when they want, right? A business college, a nursing school, a hospital, and in 1913, they were the site for the national headquarters, okay? This is just a sample of the insurance and burial policies that were offered by them. For 50 cents or less, you could pay for insurance. And there's a picture of the death policy and the benefits that you received. And this is the copy of, this is the actual headstone, and you'll see this type headstone in all cemeteries that cover Mosaic Templars. This is also information on their service security. Now, you'll see the name S.J. Elliott, and I'm not sure if I have him in the presentation, but Mr. Elliott, I believe, was from Alabama. He ended up being a Grand Master of the Mosaic Templars and hailed from Alabama. And those are just some of the you know, you guys, when you go to church and you see the ushers, and they have those that look just like those, you know, all of this stems from what has come before us. All right, now, the markings on, you can recognize all of these fraternal orders by their markings and their symbols. Now, the stone has the sloping top on the stone, so you'll recognize that. And it also has a set of branches with 9 leaves found on both sides of the emblem. The markers are approximately 22 inches in height, 16 inches in width, and 4 inches in thickness. And no matter where you are in the country, the stone is exactly the same. Is that my phone? Okay. It features the letters MTA and the 3 V's. And the, of course, the MTA stands for Mosaic Templars Association. And then you have the 3 V's, which stand for Vindi, Vidi, Vici, which is the Latin phrase that translates I came, I saw, I conquered. You have the crossing staff with the snakes. So this is what represents the Mosaic Templars. This is the gravesite of Susie Cox, who is the cousin of Mr. Evan Lang. He's right there. And she's buried in Mount Zion No. 2 Cemetery in Clark County, Alabama. Stone looks exactly the same. All right, now here are some stones in Mosaic Templars of the Mosaics in Baptist Hill Cemetery. You already saw Ms. Holmes' stone. And then, of course, we'll talk about cemetery preservation, cleaning headstones, and the importance of not letting them get to where this one is, because from here you can't recognize what type of stone or who that stone belongs to. And then here you have a mosaic stone. This is in a cemetery in Nashville, Arkansas. And then on the right, you have a stone from Wynne, Arkansas. Again, no matter where they are, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, they're all the same. But I want you to notice that row in the middle. You see that you identify the 2 Mosaic Templars, but that one in the middle is a fraternal order, and it's a different one. So and they, just like you can have be a member of 3 or 4, or maybe you have family members that were in different orders. All right, this was yesterday. So this is the stone. Oh, I think my pictures are messed up. Oh, I know what happened. Okay, there we go. I'll just do them all. Wait. Trying to get too fancy. Up, see? Okay. All right, that was yesterday. That is Miss Maggie Drake's stone, and you can see all the algae and mold and things like that are on the stone. So Rob and I took a few minutes to try to clean the stone. So that picture with one cleaning was yesterday. I have the one showing you that we did one time over. And then the next picture is from today. And that stone needs more than a day or 2 for cleaning because of so much of the lichen and algae and stuff that's on it. It's embedded itself into the stone because it's been so long since it's been cleaned. All right, now, he talked about Maggie Drake, and but I just wanted to show you this picture after we did some cleaning to her stone and how she is buried next to her father.
What did you clean the stone with?
We used D2 solution, and I can give you guys information about that later on. All right, our next fraternal order, the Supreme Royal Circle of Friends of the World. Now, as you see, now the founder of the Supreme Royal Circle is Dr. Richard Williams out of Forest City and Helena, Arkansas. And there's a picture of him with his wife and his daughter. But the symbol for the Royal Circle of Friends is you have the upside down triangle with the lion standing on top of it. And in each corner of the triangle, you'll see the R, the C, and the F, which stands for Royal Circle Friends. And then the 09 in the middle represents the year that the organization was founded, in 1909. And Dr. Williams, by 1911, he had over 300 lodges. Men and women were equal members. In 1944, the membership exceeded 100,000 people. And the lodges were in multiple states, as you can see: Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. And this is just a little bit more. His first recruitment meeting was September 1st in 1909. It cost you $2.50 to join. You paid $1 dues per quarter. You were paid $300 on the death of a member. Other benefits included sick pay from $1 to $5. They supplied a distinctive headstone for members. And by the end of 1909, now this was started in 1909. By the end of 1909, he had 510 members. So was there a need? And in 1910, he started a newspaper, the Royal Messenger, which was published twice a month. And by 1911, there were 300 lodges. Now, this is, in some areas, the design may be a little different. As you see in the middle stone is Maddie White. Hers, instead of being in the circle, she has the lion on top of the triangle. And this one was probably handmade, hand-carved. There was also the square stone, as you can see with Mr. Willie Smith from Hensley, circle number 389, where the stone is, the emblem is to the left and the writing is to the right. But there was also the Royal Supreme Circle, or the Supreme Royal Circle, which was, I believe, those that had Supreme Royal were actually the officers, as opposed to just the regular Royal Circle of Friends. And this just talks about how rapidly they grew. And, in 1918, the operation moved from Arkansas to Chicago. They had, in 1921, they had 2 hospitals, one in Memphis and one in Little Rock. And services were free if you were a member. This is to show you the impact that these organizations had within the communities. This is one of the hospitals that the Royal Circle of Friends opened, and this one was in Little Rock. And they trained nurses, and Lena Jordan was a nurse. I think she may be in here later on, but we had also the Mosaic Templars had a hospital. It was called Bush Memorial Hospital, and these are just images of those. And you see the nurses there on the bottom left photographed. Okay, there was, unfortunately, a lot of the fraternal orders died out during the Depression. Dr. Williams died in '44, and 3 years after his death, the organization diminished. Okay, and wait. Okay, now let me tell you a little story. We talk about our ancestors. We talk about obeying the voices, listening. When you've been called by an ancestor to do something, you should do it, right? All right. Well, sometimes I don't feel like going through all the work that's involved, the research or trying to find something in the house I can't find. So I will call on my ancestors. I'm abusing them, I know, but they get you back. So I'll call them and say, look, y'all know I'm in a rush, and I need to find that document. I need that book for that lecture, and I can't remember where it was. Can you just point it out to me? Just whisper in my ear and tell me where it is. Well, on this particular day, I was in Hope, Arkansas, and I had been told that my great-great-grandfather was buried in Red Hook Cemetery. So this was my first time to the cemetery, and I get out the car. It's like 103 degrees, And I get out the car, and I'm like, okay, y'all, I don't want to be here all day. So can y'all just guide me to this stone so I can get on my way, right? Okay. Well, they complied. They were gracious. So I get out of the car, and I'm walking, and I see the stone, and, I'm like, no, something's telling me that's the stone. That's because it was laying face down. So I walk over to the stone, I turn it up, and it is my great-great-grandfather. So you can read it says, John Tenpenny, faithful member of Sunshine Circle, number 101, died March 28, 1922. He was a member of the Royal Circle of Friends. So even though you can't really see it that well in this picture, the left picture, you can see the lion a little bit on top. So anyway, I don't even know if I was gracious enough to thank them. I was so excited about finding the stone and did my little thing. So after I've taken my pictures and did my posing and everything, so I'm walking back to the car, and that's when they said, yeah, we're going to give you what you want, but we're going to give you something to take with you. I stepped into a red ant hole, right? So, of course, y'all was like sick for the next week because, I mean, I had multiple bites. And so that taught me a lesson then. If you're going to ask, be pleasant and be thankful and stop just asking for anything, right? So anyway, but that is the headstone of my great-great-grandfather. And now, the International Order of 12 Knights and Daughters of Tabor. How many of you have heard of this fraternal order? All right. So as you see, we have two type of stones. One has the circular top. The other has the pointy top, for lack of a better word. And then you'll also notice with the better picture that there are numbers in the markings. The male stone has three sevens with the 3 3s, and then the females have the 3 3s at the top and the 3 7s at the bottom. And the founder of this fraternal order is Moses Dixon, and he did some things prior to. You can Google him, but he did some things prior to founding this organization. But he was out of Missouri, and he was in Mount Bayou, Mississippi. So it was started in 1889. This is a picture of the administrative building of the internet. And if you see the sign, it says IOOT. So that's the abbreviation of International Order of 12. And here we have a better view of these pictures, where you can see the numbers in them, where it's in an octagon, I guess, octagon, for the females with the 3s at the top, the 7s at the bottom, and for the gentlemen. Now those numbers, those letters, the numbers are inside of a star on those. And their benefits, they provided life and burial insurance, they provided health care for members, the headstones were part of the member benefits, and they existed primarily in the communities along the Mississippi Delta. So this is just a picture of their manual, of their laws, regulations, and ceremonies. Now, what the 3 7s mean are the triple perfection of the International Order of 12, founded upon the solid principles of justice, equity, benevolence, prudence, loyalty, unity, and impartiality. There are 7 founding principles listed. The number 7 is also supposed to mean purity and perfection in Christianity, because God rested on the 7th day after creating the heavens and the earth. The 3 3s refer to the members' strong commitment to God, specifically the Holy Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, with the Mosaic Templars, you know, it was Mosaic because of Moses, and their whole history of the naming follows with Moses, the story of Moses. And this is just another picture from their building. Now, we have the, I think I just hold it too long. We have Oddfellows. How many of you are familiar with Oddfellows? Okay. Oddfellows, when you see, you'll see the 3 rings. Now, of all the stones, I think the Oddfellow stones are probably the least that I've seen. They are hard to find. And, but the F stands for friendship, L for love, T for truth. And these are 2 different stones. As you can see, the stone on the right looks as if it was handmade and hand carved. And the one on the left is more of a commercial. And inside the rings are the letters. These people are family. This is Rance and Catherine Gonder. on my mother's side of the family, and these were taken in Drew County, Arkansas. And as you can see with Rance, he was born in 1845 and died in 1915. And then his wife Catherine obviously was not a member of, but I don't know for sure. I don't think the Odd Fellows, I don't think women were included in Odd Fellows. And then, so that's them. Now, the independent order, this is just more information on it, how it started in the 1700s, and when, you know, we started having it up. So they did have, the Rebecca Lodge is the female counterpart to the fraternal organization. But the links, they also called it the three-link fraternity, because people recognized it by those links. And these are just a couple of the pictures. Now this photograph, Mr. Shaw, this is what cemetery is it?
That's up in Lamar County. That's Deborah Love's great grandfather.
Okay. So Mr. Shaw was a member as well. Now, we're all familiar with Masons, right? The Masons and the Eastern Stars. So I just only have a couple of slides on them, but this is the Masonic Order of the Masons, and everybody recognizes their stone. This is just some information of some of the Grand Masters that were from Arkansas that were Masons. And as you can see, William H. Gray, who was also a legislator after Reconstruction, was the first Grand Master. Then you have John Johnson, J.C. Corbin, who was the founder of what is now UAPB, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Milford Gibbs, who was the first black banker. Now, tombstones and what they reveal. They reveal they reveal the name of the deceased, you know, your lifespan between the dash. How many of you are familiar with that poem, The Dash? You know, sometimes we have tombstones that can give a whole life story. Family associations, occupations, social organizations, a lot of those things are listed. And I don't have it in here, but I have to tell you about Newt. There was a headstone that I found, and the gentleman's name was Newt, and it said died 30 years ago. Well, I discovered the headstone 20 years ago. So, and I think he was 50. I think it said age 50, died 30 years ago. And like I said, it was 20 years ago when I found the stone. And so, how old was he? So, they can give us a lot of information, and sometimes they can make us scratch our head. These are just a couple of stones that you know, and you can read it real quick about successful businessmen or people, and when we build monuments, of course, we build monuments for that person to be remembered. Now, very quick story. What time is it? Very quick story on this headstone. Okay, I'm good. I still got an hour and 20 minutes. Okay. This gentleman. Okay. Okay, I'll do it in 20. But anyway, okay, there was two ladies that were from Arkansas and had moved to Detroit. And they came home, you know, we all come back home at some point in time, and they wanted to find their great-grandfather's headstone. They had been told that it was located in a particular cemetery. Well, we went to this, you know, we went to the cemetery, but from the street, you didn't know it was a cemetery because it was so overgrown. Long story short, we found the headstone. Now, the only information that they knew about him was that he was the first minister of Virginia Baptist Church. And so when we got the stone, what does it read? Reverend Alfred Durham. So that confirms he was a minister. And then it shows that he was born at Durham, North Carolina. It shows you he was born in 1809 and died in 1908, so he crossed centuries. And then it said he was an ordained minister in 1863. Well, now if you want to do the history of Virginia Baptist Church, you know that he was the first minister. So if you're trying to decide, figure out when was Virginia established, at least you know it was there by 1863 when you start doing your research, because he was their first minister. Now, it gives you the name of his wife, Missouri, and when she was born. So there's a lot of information, and keep in mind the time frame. In the state of Arkansas, they didn't even start doing death certificates until 1914. So he died in 1908. So there is no death certificate for him. But yet that headstone tells us when he was born and when he died and who he was married to. So there's a lot of information on headstones that we could use for vital information. This is just this gentleman, Mr. Woods. He was the 18th Grand Master of the Prince Hall Masons. So, when you're doing a history, and like Terrence was talking about database and spreadsheets and all that stuff, I mean, you may be documenting just what's on a headstone, but you may want to come back later on and find out how many Grand Masters you had in the state of Alabama. Or you may want to find out the name, you want to do a search of all your lodges. Well, all of that stuff is there. And you can do separate searches for different things when you compile that information. And this is just Anderson Rush, someone that was, he was in the 57th Regiment, but there was no marker for him. So the Black History Commission of Arkansas, gathered his history, researched him, and then provided a monument for him. So that's what you can still do today, Now, the emblems on the headstones, as you can see, you recognize the Masons and the Eastern Stars, and and you see the real pretty one on the right. They were a member of Odd Fellows as well as the Masons. So you'll see some with this one on the left, top left. He was a member of the Mosaic Templars and the Royal Circle of Friends. And these are just some more stones. I think I skipped one. No, I didn't. Okay, these are just some more pictures of multiple fraternal orders that people were members of. American Woodmen. You recognize theirs because of the logs. It looks like a tree, or sideways it looks like a big log, and you'll find those. And then I think I did miss a slide. But by studying somebody say it for me. Thank you. You learn your local history. You learn about events in the community. You get a glimpse of the early post-Civil War life. You find biographies of your community leaders. You witness the developing community institutions, and you understand the present-day practices by studying their origins based on the benevolent societies. Now, this group is called the Sons of Temperance, and these are some that are not so well known. The Sons of Temperance, and you'll see that their symbol is a triangle with the words love, purity, and fidelity in around the triangle. They were founded in 1842 in New York. And that stone, you can see on the very far right that Mr. William was busy. He shouldn't have had any problem being buried, should he? The one who collected all the benefits. So yeah, somebody collected, right? All right, now we have the Knights of Pythas. You guys are familiar with them. The Knights of Pythas, and their symbol is it stands for, the FCB stands for Friendship, Charity, and Benevolence. I got it right that time. It came out. All right. And then this is just a couple of ways that on one headstone, they just had the KOFP. And then this just gives you information on them, on their fraternal order. But their headquarters was in Dallas. The building was built by a African American architect who was the son-in-law of Booker T. Washington, and he built their building in 1916. Okay, United Brothers of Friendship and the Sisters of the Mysterious 10. So this is just some information on them. And they were founded in 1861 by Marshall Taylor out of Louisville, Kentucky. They left to go into war and reorganize after the war ended. And this is just, some information on them when they were meeting. And this is information on the first national convention, which was held in Louisville in 1875. By 1880, the Sisters of the Mysterious 10 were part of the National Grand Lodge and the United Brothers of Friendship. This is more information. They had their national meeting in Little Rock in 1894. Then we have the Independent Order of St. Luke, and it was under the direction of Miss Maggie Walker. She, her goals were to establish a bank, establish a newspaper, and create a department store. She, the order expanded to 24 states. She did develop her newspaper. It was called the St. Luke Herald. She established the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in 1903. She became the first woman bank president in the country. So you see how our communities are developed through these fraternal orders. By the mid-1920s, her membership had exceeded 100,000 people. And this is a picture of the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. Oh, my sheet of paper, I left it. Excuse me. This is a picture of the St. Luke Bank, and it was, it continued into 2011 as the oldest operating African-American owned bank in the United States. So, this wraps up my presentation on fraternal orders. But what I want you to keep in mind is that we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of abandoned cemeteries. We have cemeteries that are in dire need of preservation, restoration, and documentation. And we all need to do our part. You need to listen to the voices, and when they tell you to get on up and go out and do what what you're asked, please do those things. Yeah, I'm just adding. So I want to leave you with a few words, and I hope it moves you. And but that's not it. That's my dad and my grandfather and me on my wedding day. It's just let me turn. Can y'all hear that? From the Mosaic Templars to the Royal Circle of Friends. Can you hear the music? Okay. Men and women built institutions and supported each other. From the nurturing hands of Lena Jordan of Little Rock to the halls of Tiberian Hospital, thousands of lives were nursed and cared for by our own. From the United Brothers of Friendship to the Sisters of the Mysterious 10, relationships were born that sustained the community. There are countless stories hidden within the pages of the histories of the African American benevolent societies. They speak to us from thousands of headstones in countless burial grounds. Some stand mightily in our midst today. Our awesome task is to find them, lest we forget to honor the. So this video is in tribute to those that have paved the way for the Arkansas and Alabama African American community. Thank you. Sorry, I worked the video.